Fresh greens right from my garden. Welcome to my backyard farm here in Brooklyn, New York. My name is Mihail. You can find out more information about me at ediblelandscaper.com. But right now we're going to take you through my garden, show you some nice planting arrangements that I have. So let's start with the bed that's closest to the house. This I call the greens bed. We have some collard greens right here, which we've already mostly harvested out. And then you got nasturtiums, lettuce, Swiss chard. Now the big challenge with this bed is that I planted these greens so densely that as they're growing in, they're getting kind of leggy, and things need to get thinned out, which is very convenient because when it comes to greens, a thinning is actually a harvest. As you can see, I can eat this. And so not only am I giving the plants more space in between each other for better air circulation, and so they can have more each plant can have more sunlight space to grow, I'm also producing for myself a little salad, which I find rather delicious, especially when they're young. So I like to grow varieties that are kind of things that you can't necessarily find at a grocery store. For example, this is like a Blueblood Tomato, which is a Bulgarian heirloom. It's a Venus flytrap. It's actually not, doesn't seem like it's doing pretty well. I have a speculation that the soil here is too nutritious for it. And so, I mean, that's why it's a carnivore, because it usually prefers soil that's not so nutritious. Right there, and in between interplanting, because what I usually did with this garden with most of the beds is I transplanted something and then I seeded stuff in between. So here I transplanted, for example, peppers, and I seeded onions in between, and nasturtium as well a little bit. And so they're companion plants, they help each other out. Onions are very pungent, so they repel a lot of pests. This is a very smart companion planting to do. Carrots and leeks, and obviously some onions over there. They confuse, the leeks confuse the carrot flies, and onions are just general pest repellents. So and they have different spatial and nutrient requirements, so they're planted well together. As you can see, the carrots that are off on their own, and this is to stress how important thinning is, but the carrots that are further away from other carrots are generally bigger. And so I know some gardeners, when they start thinning, they feel like, you know, oh, there's snail here a little bit. These guys, they're nice, they're beautiful because of their spiraled shell, but they like to munch on things. So. And we also have okra interspersed in this bed, as well as some rosemary. And the okra wasn't doing really well, so what I did is I mashed up some banana peels and I dug it up into the soil around it, and the potassium really helped the okra deal with a lot of the stress from the transplant and so on. So it's doing much better now. Oh, look at that beautiful zucchini flower. It's like a star. That is beautiful. That's great. I was kind of mad at the zucchini earlier, but after seeing that, I don't know. This is our herb spiral. The reason planting herbs in the spiral is always a good idea is because they have different water and sunlight requirements. And you'll notice the spiral is a pattern that occurs very often in nature. For example, that snail shell that we interacted with earlier. While I was building this, I looked under a lot of rocks and saw millipedes in a spiral. I mean, our galaxy is even in a spiral, so it makes a lot of sense to mimic that pattern and use it to your benefit. So here we have the rosemary on top because it prefers dry soil, and then it goes in in the order of what prefers it drier to wetter. Sage, 2 different kinds of sage, oregano, savory, lovage, dill, that's actually getting eaten by grubs constantly, tarragon, thyme, chives, and then at the bottom of the herb spiral, watercress that can literally be grown in a pond. So it likes it really, soil really, really moist. Now, Brussels sprouts are another thing that you want to establish a presence in your garden, just because they do take a while, and they become big plants, but it's definitely worth it. This is going to be a late summer crop of Brussels sprouts. However, I also recommend transplanting the Brussels sprouts sometime around a month from now, July, to offer you a nice late fall crop, because the good thing about Brussels sprouts is that, similar with the artichoke, is that once frost comes, it makes it a little sweeter, and so it's a very good post-frost kind of, crop that you can still keep harvesting. So Brussels, and they're delicious. Here, another really important element of a garden, which is a healthy compost bin. A compost is a way to kind of close the loop in your garden. Any garden scraps and food waste you put in your compost, and then a couple months later you use it again as fertilizer for your soil. And this is an example of really healthy compost. You want to let it get really hot, and then once it cooks a little, you want to turn it and let other parts of it cook. And really healthy compost should actually smell like earth. It shouldn't be smelling like rotting food. So I add food waste and green waste, so leafy things. Grab an equal amount of wood chips, in which I put in here, and I just layer it on until it cooks a bit, and that's when I turn it. And that usually produces very, very nutritious compost for me and my plants. So once again, everything I do is organic. My soil, if you take a look at it, it's booming with life. It's got worms and ants and bugs and all sorts of things that are tilling the soil for us and creating nutrients and distributing the nutrients around the garden as well. And so feel free to check out my website, ediblelandscaper.com. There's plenty of useful garden information, and you'll be seeing me in these little videos throughout the growing season, doing random garden tasks and so on. So it'll be a fun growing season, and I'm looking forward to August, when we're going to have fruit falling off these vines back here in our backyard farm in Brooklyn. So I'm Mihail, the Edible Landscaper. Don't forget to check out ediblelandscaper.com.